Hello. I haven't made a video for ages, or it feels like ages, for not any particular reason, just been very busy and had a lot going on in life in general. But one of the last videos I made, so not the last one, was about the closure of Marbek's record shop in Auckland, and it's counting down to the last day. They're closing up on October 31st, and I made a video about a month ago, was it? 6 weeks ago, where I picked up Faith No More, Soul Invictus, and The Cure, the top album from there, for $15 each. No, it wasn't 15 because it was 25% off. It was $11 each. No. Yes. Oh, jeez. Anyway, we're down to basically the last 2 weeks of business, and they've cut prices again. Now it's 50%. Everything in store 50%. So I had a chance while I was at work, kind of between tasks, where I could pop into the shop quickly, and I didn't look super thoroughly because I was pressed for time, but I looked well enough. And they've still got some stuff left. This is all new. It's not a second-hand stock. It's all brand new stock. It's like 50-50 records and CDs in that shop, I'd say. And you know, a lot of empty spaces that things have been sold, and so they're trying to sell all their stock before they close, obviously, or as much as they can. And so they're down to 50% in the last 2 weeks. I don't know if they'll go further down, 75% off next week, maybe, I don't know. But I think I went one more time, and I thought, well, that's my last time I'll ever go there. So I tried to kind of breathe it in, even though I was really rushing, and pick up one last thing. And I wanted to get something that I wouldn't be able to find secondhand. And there were 3 things I was tossing up. The first 2 were Fiona Apple albums. They had When the Pawn, blah, blah, blah. It's that super long album title. That came out in 2000, I think, 99, 2000. And that album came out when CDs were still very prevalent. The year 2000, CDs were still the primary source of music. And so I would imagine I should be able to find that secondhand if I looked hard enough. The other thing they had secondhand was, Jesus Christ, I'm all over the place. The other thing they had, not secondhand, the other thing they had was Extraordinary Machine, the album by her, which came out, I think, 2006, 2007. That was priced at $35. So half price, it would have been about, what, $17-ish, $16, $17. And I was really kind of 2 minds whether to get it. When the Pawn album was priced at $15, so that would have been $7.50. The other third one, which is what I ended up going with, was an album by The Smile, which is priced at $25, which I got for $12.50. 50% off. Does it say 50% off anywhere? Doesn't actually, but it was anyway, because the original price is $25. You get it for $12.50 with a 50% discount. And this came out in 2022, and I almost certain I would never see this secondhand anywhere, because by the time we're in 2022, we have far out into the ocean of the age of fucking streaming and everything except CDs. So finding something of this vintage secondhand is extremely unlikely, unless it's someone who's bought it, and if they're going to be selling it, they're going to be selling it for a decent price. They're not going to be selling it for $1.50 type thing. So for example, I have the Fiona Apple album Tidal, which came out I think in 96-ish, and I got that for 50 cents because that was a relatively popular album, and so therefore you can find it around in secondhand shops. And the same thing for When the Pawn. I think I could find that in a secondhand shop eventually. Extraordinary Machine, less likely to find in a secondhand shop. But like I said, because it was priced at $35, I didn't want it enough to be spending $16, $17 on it. So this, coincidentally, I was almost going to buy this full price at JB Hi-Fi for $23 about the same day that I bought the Tron Ares soundtrack, the previous video I did. I was tossing it between buying the Smile, a light for attracting attention, or Tron Ares soundtrack. And I ended up going the Tron Ares soundtrack because I was just kind of more in a mood for that. I was almost going to buy this full price. It was $23 at JB Hi-Fi. And so that kind of is what concreted it into my brain to think, well, I should really get this, because I was almost going to buy this full price less than a month ago. And here the opportunity has arisen that I can get it for half price. That's kind of like a real, I don't know, luck, coincidence, I don't know what you call it, but I ended up getting it. So yeah. Now, if you don't know what The Smile or who The Smile are, The Smile is a side project of Thom Yorke and Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead, along with Thom something. Thom, who's the drummer? I can't remember his name. And produced by Nigel Godrich. And it's, to be honest, not something I'm super familiar with all their work. I started listening to them because I heard that, I think they first announced the existence of this project and released some music in the very early COVID days, like around 2020, maybe 2021. And, you hear so much music news and projects, and this guy's doing that and that guy's doing this, and there's so much new music out there that a lot of it just flies over my head or under the radar or whatever cliche you want to use to describe it. But then even though I absolutely love Thom Yorke and love Radiohead, I didn't listen to The Smile when it first came out. Last year, it was about this time last year, almost exactly, because today's October 21st or something, 21st, 22nd. I think it was 25th when I saw Thom Yorke live in concert last year. That's quite a coincidence. Anyway, before that concert, in the months leading up to it, I thought, well, maybe he's going to play some material from The Smile. The idea of the concert was he was going to play everything. He played stuff from his solo albums, he played stuff from Radiohead, he played stuff from other kind of collaborations he had done, like the one he did with Uncle, Rabbit in the Headlights, and all sorts of things. And I thought, well, maybe he's going to do some material from the Smile albums. And so I listened to, and I actually really quite enjoyed some of that stuff. But it turns out he didn't play any of that in the end. But I kind of got into the habit, or whatever you call it, of listening to The Smile. They kind of entered into, and not whole albums. I wouldn't sit down and put on streaming a full Smile album, but there would be songs that I liked off their things, like Wall of Eyes, for example, from their most recent album, and one of the songs on this album, The Same, which I think is track 1. The work is quite reminiscent of. It's kind of like it is, of course it is. It's got two of the main components, maybe the two main components of Radiohead are the main contributors of this project, as well as the producer. So you can't help but make comparisons and say that it sounds like it does sound like Radiohead. It sounds like Radiohead-esque. It sounds like a mixture of Radiohead and Thom Yorke solo projects, because Thom Yorke solo projects, he often goes more into the purely electronic kind of area, sans any instruments, although they do that with Radiohead as well, albums like Kid A and Amnesiac. But yeah, I can't really give any other better definition or description of it. That it sounds like a mix of Radiohead type music with solo Thom Yorke type music. I'm not as familiar with Johnny Greenwood's solo stuff or stuff he's done outside Radiohead. I know he has done quite a lot of stuff outside. The one thing I do remember listening to is he scored the soundtrack for the BBC program The Body, but that would have been about 20 years ago now. So also, I think he did the soundtrack to There Will Be Blood, the Paul Thomas Anderson movie. I'm pretty sure Johnny Greenwood at least had a part to play in the soundtrack of that movie. But anyway, we see this is the album, this is the track list. That's probably not going to mean much to you if you don't know the album, but it's 13 songs. Like I said, I really like that first song, The Same. Quite a darkly beautiful song. Artwork, talking of Radiohead-esque, the artwork's done by Stanley, was it Donwood, the guy, I think is his name, or at least his pseudonym. The guy who's been involved, I think, in every single Radiohead release, done the artwork for every single one, I think. And also Thom Yorke's solo stuff, he did the artwork for that as well. And he's also doing the artwork for The Smile. And I've read before that he went to school, to University of Exeter with Thom Yorke. They met each other there and they became friends and they worked together ever since. If you think about the Radiohead album covers, I think there's some pretty great ones. There's some that aren't so great as well, but I think the Benz is pretty good. It's not like amazing. I guess the music, it's kind of I don't know. You kind of think, there is great album artwork that really stands out, but then if an album artwork is particularly bad, if the album's really good, then it kind of overtakes it, It's like a baby, a cute baby with a bad name. Eventually the name becomes kind of unimportant because the baby's the baby, you know what I mean? If I think about like an album, what's an album cover that I don't like? I can't think of one of the. I mean, there are some though. Often they're just kind of boring or really cliched or something. Recently, there's been a kind of move towards like AI album artwork. A lot of metal bands, well, not a lot, some metal bands do that. And there's a lot of kind of pushback when they do that because there's still a lot of kind of hesitation or ill feeling towards using AI artwork, partially because it is not good enough yet, really. And maybe even more important, people feel, we all feel that kind of that loss of the humanity of the artwork and also the loss of work for the artist. Anyway, that's a sort of separate issue. I don't need to start going off on that. I'm trying to see if we've got the name of the other guy, the drummer. Nigel Godrich, Stanley Donwood, yes, and Thom Yorke did artwork and design. Doesn't say the band members. Well, Jesus Christ. Strings performed by the London Contemporary Orchestra as opposed to the Symphony Orchestra. Woodblock lettering from a collection held by the Bodleian Library at Oxford. Does it say? Oh, here we go. Vocals and bass. So this is just this particular song, isn't it? But anyway, Tom Skinner, that's the guy I was thinking of. Tom Skinner, he's the drummer. So the three principal artists that contribute to this project are Thom Yorke, Johnny Greenwood, and Tom Skinner. And we can see these other instruments: saxophones, flute, trombone, trumpet, violas, cellos, double bass. Anyway, so yeah, I can't really speak extensively on this because to be honest, although I've listened through to this album, I'd say several times, I'm not super familiar with all the titles and the songs, like, oh, that song's that. The only one that I really know is because it kind of stands out as one of my favorite songs that they do is The Same. Like, for example, Panavision, open the floodgates. Where was the one about the television? Oh yeah, You'll Never Work in Television Again. I've certainly listened to those before, but it's hard to kind of put an actual sound in my head with the name of the song because it's kind of all merges together, which is one of the problems with listening to things on streaming services, is that you don't get the full album feeling or experience as you might with a CD. Is because you kind of put it on and sometimes you kind of shuffle around, or like you're in a mix and one of the songs will come up, but then you go to the next thing. By the time you've kind of realized, oh, this is a different band now, it's not the same band, it's moved on to something else, and you can't be bothered skipping back and seeing what was what. And it's not ideal, is it really? But it is what it is, if we can again use another cliche. So yeah, $12.50 for that one. Put out on XL. And really, again, as much as anything, a kind of, what do you call it? A farewell, a goodbye to one of the last remaining physical stores that sells CDs, certainly. Music as a whole in this city, in this country. I don't know, outside of Auckland, there's other shops that sells mostly secondhand, but certainly this is the last. Actually, no, that's not true. Well, what I can say is this is the last shop that only sold new CDs and records. Because all the other ones that remain, and there are a couple, not many, but a couple, all have a second-hand component. Either a large second-hand component, like Real Groovy, or a smaller one, such as Southbound or Flying In or Flying Out, whatever that one's called, is mixed up. I might be off on that. There might be one or two other ones that I'm forgetting that also have nothing second-hand, but I'm pretty sure. But this is certainly the oldest. Like I said in the previous video, first opened in the 1930s. Really kind of like an icon or a symbol, whatever you want to call it. And it's in about 8 days, it's gone. As sad as that is. But yeah, I don't know. Kind of like I feel like I want to say more about it. I said I spoke about it a lot in the other video, but it's just kind of it's quite overwhelming at times. How maybe this is just getting old, and maybe this is what all old people feel, is like how everything just, it's like dominoes. You know, like this thing closes, that guy dies, or the other guy dies, and that one's closed, or that thing's gone bankrupt, and that's gone away, another guy dies. And it's like Ace Frehley died last week, and I certainly not a Kiss fan, very, very casually at best. However, I'm quite familiar with Kiss history because I've read Paul Stanley's, Gene Simmons, and their autobiographies. And I read, was Ace's book an autobiography or a biography? And for some reason, there are some bands like that even though I'm not really a fan of their music, I just have consumed a lot of media about them over the years, and so know a lot about them for some weird reason. It's just almost like that the story of the band is more interesting to me than the music. But anyway, he died, and he was getting old. He was in his 70s, so it's not as though like, and also he lived a very hard life. But the other one that was very shocking and quite sad, and it gets more sad the more that I learn about it, was Sam Rivers from Limp Bizkit, who just died on the weekend. And he was only 48, just a little bit older than me, a few years older than me. And I've talked about Limp Bizkit a lot. I've done a video or two about Limp Bizkit on this channel before, and I've kind of said how Limp Bizkit are kind of a strange band for me. It's like, there was one stage where I really liked Limp Bizkit, They were never my favorite band or anything, but I've paid money for 2 of their albums in my life, and I saw them in concert. And still to this day, I contend that the live show I saw of them, it was the year 2001, it would be very like January 2001, was one of the best live shows I've ever experienced in my life. The energy and the hype, it was just off the charts. But I kind of, as many people do, I kind of like lost track of them, and they kind of went all here, there, and everywhere with their music, and they've kind of had a resurgence, excuse me, in the last couple of years, 5 years or so. And I never really thought much about Sam Rivers. He was quite a quiet person. Like very rarely did you hear him talk or give interviews. Same as with the drummer, John Otto. If there was going to be an interview, it would be 99% of the time be Fred, or the odd time it would also be Wes. But the rhythm section were not really in the forefront of the public kind of face of the band. But then after, when someone dies, these stories start coming out, and like all these stories start coming out about him like going out of his way for fans, like to get the fans to sign things for the fans or to meet the fans. Like people would direct message him on Instagram and say, "Oh, can I meet you at the show, and so you can sign my record," or something like that. And he would message them back and go, "Yeah, okay, meet me here at this time. I'll come backstage," and he would do it. And there's videos of him coming outside hotels, the same thing. Like someone messaged him when he was staying in a hotel, and he'd walk out the front door and sign people's stuff. Which I know isn't, maybe not that much, but other similar stories like that, where he would really go out of his way to make time for fans of the band, which always kind of impresses me, because that can't be easy. Especially if, of course there's harder things to do than being a fucking rock band, but you know what I mean. It would be a drag having people, constantly, "Can I have a photo? Can you do this? Can you do that?" every time you went outside. But it just makes you feel like you're getting old, I guess is my point, when these kind of guys, more and more of them die. And then obviously earlier this year was Ozzy, and Ozzy was old as well, and blah blah blah. But it's and then again things like this, shots that have been there your entire life, and kind of lifetime before you were even born, they were there, and then they're closing up, and yeah, the world is a changing, but it's always changing, and it always has changed. And everyone kind of has the ego to believe that maybe right now it's changing more than it ever has. But maybe that's just the what do you call it? There's a word for that, but I can't think what the fuck it is. But it's like I said, the ego that you feel must be, because it's happening in my life and I'm experiencing it. It must be more than in the past, or but it's. I guess these things have always happened. Anyway, we'll leave it there. And I'd say this time for sure, I'd say it is farewell Marbex, because I can't imagine I'm going to be going back there in the next week. Even if they announce a 90% discount, I don't think I'd bother going, because the fact that I know the ones that I wanted will be gone. If they had a massive discount, someone would just go in there and buy up everything and then resell it. Surprised people haven't done that already with a lot of things. But anyway, goodbye Marbex. We will miss you.